Beneath Earth's surface lies a hidden world forgotten by time and erased from the memory of humanity. Ancient bunkers carved into the deep rock, silent and untouched for centuries. Far from prying eyes, these underground vaults conceal a secret so powerful it could reshape the galaxy itself. In a darkened corner of the planet, an archaeologist named Elena Turner stumbles upon an unexpected discovery during an excavation deep within a remote desert. She's been studying old ruins for years, but never imagined she would find something of this magnitude. One morning, as the sun barely crests over the horizon, her team uncovers a doorway made of stone, covered in unfamiliar symbols. The dust and grime of centuries obscure its true form. But Elena senses something different here. This isn't just another ancient ruin. This is something far older, far more advanced than anything she's ever encountered. Her fingers brush across the symbols as the team pulls the last of the rubble away, revealing a massive metallic door. Beneath the surface, Elena's heart races as she inspects the markings. They don't belong to any known civilization. They're not even from the same era as the structures around them. No, this is something new, something buried from a time long before recorded history. She orders her team to proceed carefully, and as the last of the stone is moved aside, the door creaks open, revealing a vast chamber beyond. It isn't just a room or a vault. It's a hidden hangar, and inside are the ghosts of an ancient fleet forgotten by time. The ships are immense, their sleek forms covered in dust, but their designs unmistakable. They are faster than light vessels, beyond the capabilities of anything known to modern humans, yet they are unmistakably human-made. The technology is unlike anything seen in centuries, and it's been hidden right here on Earth all along. Elena can hardly believe what she's seeing, but there's no mistaking it. These ships have been waiting in silence for millennia. They've been dormant just beneath the surface, while humanity has forgotten the legacy of its own past. Elena's first instinct is to call for help, but she knows she must proceed carefully. The discovery of these ships will change everything for Earth. It will change everything for the galaxy. But for now, she must keep it a secret. Not even her team knows the full scale of what they've uncovered. If this information reaches the wrong hands, it could spell disaster for Earth itself. The potential implications are enormous. But Elena can't help the excitement coursing through her. She wonders how this fleet was hidden away, who built it, and most importantly, what else is buried in these long-forgotten vaults of ancient Earth. She has no answers yet, but she knows one thing for certain: the moment this fleet is awakened, everything will change, and the story of Earth will no longer be one of insignificance in the vast galaxy. The future of humanity is about to be rewritten. As she stands there alone in the shadows of the massive ships, Elena feels the weight of her discovery settle upon her. This is no longer just an archaeological find. It is the beginning of something much greater, something that could alter the course of history itself. And as the hum of the dormant ships fills the air with a long-forgotten power, she realizes that she holds the key to unlocking the universe's greatest secret. Across the galaxy, the mighty Galactic Empire is a machine of order and control. Its reach extends through countless star systems, its fleets of ships patrolling the vast emptiness, keeping the galaxy under its grip. The Emperor sits on a throne of power, and his vast network of generals, spies, and governors ensures that no rebellion can ever take root. For centuries, the Empire has ruled without challenge, its power unrivaled, its enemies crushed before they even had the chance to rise. But something is changing. At the edge of the Empire's territory, in a forgotten sector of the galaxy, strange things are happening. Ships are disappearing without a trace, communications go dark, and the Imperial fleet is unable to track the disturbances. The anomalies start small, tiny blips on sensors, brief flashes of strange readings, but they grow, spreading slowly through more and more sectors. It's only a matter of time before the Empire takes notice. Within the Imperial Command Center, a group of senior officers gathers around a holographic map of the galaxy. They study the reports, frowning at the data before them. There is no explanation for the disappearances, no sign of enemy ships or fleets. One by one, each report is read aloud, each one more perplexing than the last. A patrol fleet vanishes near a neutral sector. An entire space station loses contact with its home base. Then an entire mining colony, deep in the fringes, ceases all transmissions. The events are scattered across the galaxy, but they all share one thing in common. They are impossible to explain. General Corrin, a seasoned officer who has spent decades ensuring the Empire's dominance, stands up, his face hard with determination. We can't afford to ignore this. There's something out there, something that's picking us off one by one. His voice is steady, but there's a note of urgency behind his words. I'll assemble a fleet. We'll send our best to investigate. The Emperor's voice cuts through the room like a blade. Make it swift. Find the source of these disturbances. If there's any rebellion, crush it before it spreads. I will not tolerate disorder in my empire. As Corrin nods in acknowledgement, he knows the stakes. He'll take the best of the Imperial fleet and hunt down whatever is causing these disruptions, no matter the cost. The Empire has never faced anything like this before, and Corrin feels the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The fleet departs, a massive armada of warships cutting through the void, their engines roaring as they leap into the stars. But the closer they get to the source of the disturbances, the stranger the readings become. Time seems to stretch unnaturally, and the very fabric of space itself seems to warp. The Imperial ships begin to lose their sense of direction, becoming disoriented as they venture deeper into uncharted territory. Something is wrong. Something is waiting for them. Back on Earth, Elena Turner continues her work in secret, unaware that the Empire's ships are getting closer. She and her team have begun studying the revived FTL ships, slowly unlocking their systems and reactivating their engines. It's a painstaking process, but with every test, they uncover more about the long-forgotten technology. Elena can sense the power building, an energy that hums beneath the surface of the Earth's oceans and beneath the rocky terrain. She knows that it's only a matter of time before the secret is out. But what she doesn't know is that the galaxy's most powerful force is already on its way. The Empire is coming, and when they arrive, the world she has uncovered will never be the same. Elena could hardly sleep that night, her mind racing with the implications of what she had uncovered. The hidden fleet was more than just a relic. It was a weapon, a powerful force that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The ships were enormous, designed for long-range warfare with technology that surpassed anything humanity had ever developed. She knew that unlocking their full potential would take time, but every test, every system they powered up, revealed a piece of a puzzle that was far more complicated than she could have ever imagined. The team worked tirelessly, delving into the ship's core systems, trying to decipher the alien language encoded into the control panels and computers. Elena had never seen anything like it before. The technology was so advanced it was almost incomprehensible, and yet it was unmistakably human. These ships had been built by the ancestors of Earth, and they had been waiting, dormant for centuries, for someone to wake them up. Days turned into weeks as the team worked relentlessly, bypassing security protocols and learning how to interface with the ships. One by one, the FTL engines came to life, their power surging through the systems in a low, resonating hum that shook the walls of the underground hangar. Elena stood before the massive control console of the flagship, her fingers trembling as she keyed in the final commands. The air in the room seemed to thicken with anticipation as the lights flickered and the ship's engine hummed louder, gradually rising to a deafening roar. It was alive. The ship, a gleaming behemoth of metal and energy, floated above the ground as though weightless. Its sleek, angular shape was designed for speed, agility, and overwhelming firepower. Every inch of it was built for war. The ship was a reminder of humanity's forgotten past, a symbol of their potential to dominate the stars. Elena felt a surge of pride and fear wash over her as she realized the significance of what they had just done. This wasn't just about waking up an ancient fleet. It was about confronting the galaxy's most powerful force. At the same time, far above in the blackness of space, the Imperial fleet continued its journey toward the edge of known space. The commanders were becoming increasingly frustrated as the disturbances continued to spread, growing in intensity and complexity. They had lost contact with several of their ships and couldn't make sense of the strange readings they were picking up. General Corrin, once confident in his ability to track down the source of the disruptions, was beginning to feel the pressure. This wasn't just some random series of events. There was something deliberate behind it. As they neared the coordinates where the anomalies seemed to originate, the Empire's ships began to experience strange effects. The sensors flickered, the stars seemed to warp, and the very fabric of space seemed to bend. It was as if they were crossing into a region where the rules of physics didn't apply. Corrin could sense it. Something was waiting for them. He felt the hairs on the back of his neck rise as the fleet slowed, the uncertainty growing with every passing moment. Back on Earth, Alina was now on the verge of unlocking the ship's faster-than-light capabilities. The process had been slow, but each small breakthrough had brought her closer to her goal. The FTL engine was ready. The ship could travel across the stars in an instant, faster than anything the Empire had ever seen. But with this power came a terrifying realization. If the Empire learned of this, they would come for Earth with everything they had. And when they did, humanity's long-hidden fleet would be their greatest threat. The moment of truth was near. Alina knew that what they had awakened could no longer remain a secret. Earth's hidden fleet was ready. And when the Empire arrived, the galaxy would never be the same. The first strike came without warning. The newly awakened fleet of Earth's hidden ships, powered by the mysterious faster-than-light technology, surged into the heart of the Empire's most secure space sector. The ships, sleek and advanced, emerged from the depths of the galaxy like shadows in the dark, appearing out of nowhere and disappearing just as quickly. The Imperial fleet, already on high alert and tracking strange disturbances, was caught off guard. They had no idea what they were up against. General Corrin stood at the helm of the Empire's command vessel, his eyes fixed on the radar screen as the data flickered. His fleet was deployed along the outer rim of the Empire's core systems, tasked with investigating the disturbances. But now, the situation had escalated into something far worse. Ships vanished from their patrol zones, entire battalions of Imperial warships left in shambles. And before they could react, another fleet of unknown origin appeared out of thin air, disabling Imperial outposts and cutting through the Empire's outer defenses like a hot knife through butter. Report. Corrin barked as his bridge crew scrambled to process the incoming data. A young officer spoke up, his voice strained with disbelief. Sir, the readings, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. The ships are jumping across space, faster than any known vessel. We can't track them, and they're hitting us from multiple points simultaneously. The officer's words felt like a punch to the gut. The Empire had always prided itself on its superiority, its ability to crush any resistance. But this was different. The strike was swift and precise, a masterclass in surprise tactics. Earth's ships, equipped with FTL drives, moved through the darkness of space like ghosts, too fast for the Empire to catch. They struck Imperial supply lines, crippled communications hubs, and launched devastating strikes on vital military infrastructure. The Empire's largest fleet, caught in the middle of a vast asteroid field, was ambushed by smaller human ships that used the environment to their advantage. The humans knew how to fight in the shadows, slipping past the Empire's sensors and attacking with brutal efficiency. The attack didn't stop there. Earth's fleet continued to appear and disappear across Imperial territory, each strike more devastating than the last. The Empire's advanced warships, once thought unbeatable, were no match for the unexpected onslaught. Imperial forces struggled to regain control, but the enemy ships were always one step ahead. General Corrin watched in growing frustration as his forces were pushed back, unable to hold their ground. Back on Earth, Alina Turner and her team monitored the early stages of the attack from their underground facility. Their success was not without its costs. The fleet's first strike had been a gamble, a test of their newfound power, and the result had exceeded all expectations. Belina felt a rush of adrenaline as they watched the Empire's forces falter, but she knew that this was only the beginning. The Empire would retaliate, and when they did, Earth would have to be ready. But Alina's thoughts were consumed with something more pressing. She couldn't help but wonder if they had underestimated the scale of what they had unleashed. They had only tested a small portion of the fleet's capabilities. If the Empire regrouped and retaliated with its full might, Earth's hidden fleet might not stand a chance. Alina turned to her chief engineer, a grizzled man named Ross, his face drawn with concern. "How long until the rest of the fleet is ready?" she asked. "Not long," Ross replied, "but we'll need to move fast. The Empire will come, and they won't stop until they've wiped us out." The stakes had just escalated. Belina knew the galaxy would never be the same again. The Empire had just learned the hard way that Earth was no longer the insignificant backwater planet it had once been. And now, a new war was beginning. A war that would either elevate humanity to a position of power or leave them shattered and forgotten. The Empire's response was swift and brutal. General Corrin's anger was palpable as he stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as his fleet regrouped after the initial chaos of the human strike. His pride, and that of the entire Empire, had been wounded. Never had anyone dared to strike at the heart of their power with such ferocity. He had underestimated the humans, and now they would pay the price. Orders were issued immediately for a full-scale retaliatory strike. The Empire's might was mobilized in a matter of hours. Vast fleets of Imperial warships, each more powerful than the last, were sent to eradicate the source of the attacks. This time, there would be no surprises. They would hunt down every one of Earth's ships and destroy them, crushing the rebellion before it could spread. Corrin was ruthless in his pursuit. His fleet was the finest the Empire had ever seen, equipped with advanced weapons and superior technology. Yet, as the ships left the safety of their command stations and entered the unknown reaches of space, something strange started to happen again. The enemy ships were elusive. No matter how many Imperial warships were dispatched to track them, Earth's fleet appeared and vanished like shadows, always one step ahead. The speed at which they moved was incomprehensible. Even with all the Empire's resources, they could not keep up. The Empire's advanced tracking systems couldn't lock onto their targets, and every time they thought they had cornered a ship, it would disappear into the void. Back on Earth, Alina stood in the command room of the underground facility, staring at the holographic display showing the positions of the Imperial forces. Every time they sent ships into Earth's space, the humans struck again. Smaller skirmishes, hit-and-run tactics that left the Empire reeling. But it was becoming clear the Empire was no longer underestimating them. They were preparing for a full-scale confrontation. The tension in the room was palpable as Alina and her team watched the progress of the battles unfold. She knew they couldn't sustain this guerrilla-style warfare forever. The Empire's resources were vast, and sooner or later they would figure out how to counter the human fleet. Still, there was something uniquely human about their tactics, a blend of ingenuity and resilience that made them difficult to predict. Every attack they launched seemed to be designed to frustrate and confuse, forcing the Empire to second-guess itself. Alina turned to Ross, her chief engineer, who had been working relentlessly to ready the rest of the fleet for deployment. "How much longer?" she asked, her voice tight with the pressure of the moment. "Not long," Ross replied, his brow furrowed in concentration. "But the ships we've awakened are not all the same. Some of them are still being calibrated. We need time to unlock their full potential." Alina nodded, understanding the weight of his words. The fleet was powerful, but it was also incomplete. If they were going to stand a chance against the Empire, they needed every ship at full strength. And as the battle raged on in space, the clock was ticking. General Corrin's fleet continued to press forward, using every trick in the book to try and flush out the human ships. They bombarded planets, launched tracking drones, and deployed every tactical strategy they knew. But each time, they found themselves thwarted. The humans had learned to use the terrain, the asteroid fields, the gravitational anomalies. They were unpredictable and ruthless, and the Empire had no counter for that kind of warfare. It was clear to Corin now. The humans were not just some random rebellion. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Empire's strength was being tested in ways it had never been before, and for the first time, Corin wasn't sure they could win this fight. With every skirmish, the humans gained more ground, and with every loss, the Empire's confidence began to erode. Back on Earth, Alina watched the final stages of the battle unfold with a mixture of hope and fear. They had come so far, but they were not yet ready for the full fury of the Empire. The war had only just begun, and soon both sides would face a moment of reckoning that would decide the future of the galaxy. As the war between Earth's hidden fleet and the Galactic Empire escalated, both sides prepared for the inevitable clash that would decide the fate of the galaxy. General Corin, though shaken by the unexpected power of the human fleet, had not lost hope. The Empire was vast, its resources endless, and its military prowess unmatched. It would only be a matter of time before they crushed this rebellion, this upstart challenge from a backwater planet. He ordered a large-scale offensive, the largest the Empire had ever seen, to wipe out the human fleet once and for all. The Imperial forces gathered in an array of military might, their warships filling the stars as they deployed across key sectors. Corin's strategy was simple: overwhelm Earth's ships with sheer numbers. His fleet's superior firepower would crush the human forces, and once they were dealt with, the Empire could turn its attention back to maintaining order across the galaxy. Back on Earth, Alina Turner stood with her team, watching as the final preparations were made to send the rest of the fleet into battle. The situation had grown dire. While the humans' guerrilla tactics had been effective in the early stages of the conflict, they knew the Empire would eventually adapt. It had already begun to retaliate with new strategies, and Earth's fleet wasn't ready for an all-out war. Their ships were powerful, but they were few. It was clear now that the time had come to make a stand. Alina, standing in the heart of the command room, gazed at the holographic map of the galaxy. The Imperial forces were moving, converging on Earth's fleet. The Empire had discovered Earth's location, and they were coming with everything they had. There would be no more hiding, no more waiting. The final battle was imminent. "We need to strike first," Alina said, her voice calm but firm. "We cannot afford to wait for them to come to us. Our only chance is to hit them while they are still assembling their forces." Ross, the chief engineer, turned from his station. "The ships are almost ready, Alina, but we don't have the luxury of time. Once the Empire sees our fleet, they will respond in full force. We need to be ready to deploy everything we have." The room fell silent as the weight of their situation settled in. Alina knew Ross was right. Earth's fleet, though technologically superior, was still outnumbered. They were about to face the full might of the Empire, and it would take everything they had just to survive. General Corin, meanwhile, prepared his fleet for battle. His confidence was bolstered by the sheer size and strength of the Imperial forces. He had underestimated the humans once, but he wouldn't make that mistake again. The moment their fleet came into range, he would strike hard and fast. The rebellion would be wiped out, and the Empire's reign would remain unchallenged. As Corin's fleet advanced, Alina made a bold decision. She ordered Earth's fleet to move out from their hidden position and engage the Imperial forces head-on. It was a risk, a dangerous move that could either secure their victory or lead to their destruction. But if they were going to win, they had to take the fight to the Empire before it was too late. The human fleet surged from the shadows, their ships disappearing and reappearing across space with the speed of light. The first battle was brutal. The Empire's warships were formidable, but Earth's ships were agile and relentless. The humans' hit-and-run tactics once again caught the Empire off guard. They were faster, smarter, and more unpredictable than anything Corin had anticipated. The Imperial fleet struggled to adapt, their ships falling into disarray as Earth's forces launched precise strikes on key Imperial ships. For the first time in the war, Corrin felt doubt creep into his mind. The humans weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. Their tactics were relentless, their spirit unbreakable. The Empire was powerful, yes, but the humans were proving they were a force to be reckoned with. As the battle raged on, Alina watched in tense silence, her fingers gripping the edge of the console. The fleet was holding its ground, but the Empire would soon regroup and strike back. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The true test of their strength was still to come. But for now, Earth's fleet had struck the first blow. The Empire had been rattled, and the tide of the war had begun to shift. The war had become a brutal test of endurance, with both sides reeling from the effects of the ongoing battles. Earth's fleet had struck hard in the beginning, catching the Empire off guard. But now the situation was changing. General Corrin, his mind sharpened by the lessons of the previous engagements, was no longer underestimating the humans. The initial surprise had worn off, and the Empire was adapting, shifting its strategy to counter the human fleet's lightning-fast tactics. Corrin called for a full mobilization of the Empire's forces. They would no longer chase shadows or respond reactively. It was time to crush Earth's fleet with overwhelming firepower and calculated precision. The Empire's warships began to move in a synchronized assault, forming a wall of ships that surrounded the human forces. The tactical shift was clear. The Empire wasn't just going to fight. It was going to annihilate. Back on Earth, Alina Turner and her team watched with growing concern as the Imperial forces grew more organized. Their initial success had given them hope, but now they were facing the full might of the Empire. And every move seemed like a gamble. The Empire was relentless, its warships more advanced than they had anticipated. Every battle felt like a close call, and the enemy was starting to push them back. Alina knew they had to take risks, but as the Empire advanced, she realized the situation was far more dangerous than they had originally thought. The human fleet had always been outnumbered, but now the gap in strength was becoming more apparent. The advantage they had in speed and agility was fading as the Empire deployed new tactics to counter their unpredictability. "We need to think differently," Alina said, her voice heavy with the weight of the situation. "The Empire is learning from our tactics, and they're adapting faster than we can keep up. If we don't come up with something new, we'll be overwhelmed." Ross, her chief engineer, nodded gravely. "We've been focusing too much on hit-and-run strategies. It's time to change our approach. We need to make them come to us, force them into a trap." Alina's eyes narrowed as she considered Ross's suggestion. It was risky, but it might be their only chance to turn the tide. She ordered her fleet to withdraw to a more remote sector of space, drawing the Empire further in. They would lure the Imperial ships into a trap, a sector filled with asteroid fields and gravitational anomalies, where the Empire's sensors and firepower would be compromised. It was a dangerous move, but if it worked, it could give them the advantage they desperately needed. Meanwhile, Corrin and his fleet were closing in. They had tracked the human fleet to the designated sector, and Corrin felt confident that this time they wouldn't escape. His fleet was now in position, and all that was left was to wipe out the rebellion. He gave the order to advance, and the Empire's ships surged forward, eager for the final confrontation. As the two fleets neared each other, Alina's fleet, hidden within the asteroid field, waited. The space was dense with debris, and the unpredictable gravitational forces played havoc on sensors. This was the moment they had been waiting for. They would draw the Empire in, confuse their tracking systems, and then strike with everything they had. The first phase of the plan worked perfectly. The Empire's ships, unable to track Earth's fleet in the chaotic terrain, grew increasingly frustrated. And then, just as Corrin's fleet thought they had cornered the humans, Earth's ships emerged from the shadows. It was a devastating surprise. Earth's fleet had placed themselves in key positions within the asteroid field, setting off a barrage of concentrated fire from multiple angles. The Empire's ships were thrown into disarray. The sudden attack, combined with the treacherous environment, caught them off guard. Earth's fleet struck hard, targeting key systems, engines, communications, and shields, crippling the Imperial warships one by one. The Empire's firepower was immense, but their tactical advantage was gone. In the tight, disorienting space, Earth's agility proved to be their saving grace. General Corrin watched in disbelief as his fleet faltered. Ships were disabled, and his command was slipping away. The trap had worked. The Empire had been outwitted once again. "We've underestimated them," Corrin muttered to himself, fury rising within him. This was far from over, but for the first time, he felt the weight of the rebellion's challenge. The humans had struck a devastating blow, and they were not going to back down. Back on Earth, Elena watched the battle unfold on the holographic display. Her heart raced as the human fleet fought back with everything they had. The trap had worked, but the war was far from won. There were still countless battles ahead, and the Empire would never stop trying to reclaim its dominance. The human fleet had taken a step toward victory, but the true test of their strength had only just begun. The aftermath of the battle left both sides in a state of chaos. The Empire had suffered a significant defeat in the asteroid field, but it was not a crippling one. The human fleet, while victorious, had also taken heavy losses. Their surprise attack had thrown the Empire into disarray, but General Corrin's fleet had regrouped and was already preparing for their next move. Elena Turner and her team were well aware that they couldn't afford to rest for long. The Empire would come again, stronger and more prepared, and when they did, Earth would need to be ready. As the days passed, Elena's thoughts turned to the long-term strategy. The Empire was relentless, and every victory seemed to come at a heavy price. Earth's fleet was still outnumbered, and while the FTL ships had given them the advantage in speed and agility, they were far from invincible. Their resources were finite, and they couldn't sustain this kind of war forever. The only way to truly secure a future for humanity in the galaxy was to deal the Empire a blow so decisive that they couldn't recover. But how? Ross, the chief engineer, approached her one evening with an idea that could change the course of the war. "We've been playing defense too long," he said, his voice low. "We need to take the fight to their home systems. If we can hit the Empire's core, their heart, we can force them to negotiate. If we strike their command centers, their political centers, then they'll have no choice but to give us what we want." Elena listened intently, considering his words. The core of the Empire was located deep within its most secure territories, heavily fortified, and defended by some of the most powerful warships in the galaxy. It would be a suicide mission. But if it worked, do we have the ships for it? Elena asked, already knowing the answer. "We can make it happen," Ross replied, "but it's going to take everything we have. We'd need to mobilize the rest of the fleet and use every bit of our technology to slip past their defenses." It was a daring plan, but it was the only one that made sense. If Earth's fleet could somehow infiltrate the Empire's most secure sector, they could strike at the heart of the Empire and end this war before it spiraled further out of control. Elena knew the risk, but the thought of a never-ending conflict with no clear end weighed heavily on her. The decision was made. Earth's fleet would make a direct assault on the Empire's heart. They would infiltrate their home systems, disable their command hubs, and show the galaxy that humanity was not a force to be ignored. The journey would be perilous, and every step would be fraught with danger. The Empire's most advanced warships would be waiting, but Elena's resolve was firm. She believed in her people, in the strength of their resolve, and in the potential of their newfound power. Earth's fleet, though battered and bruised, had the courage to face the Empire's might head-on. And for the first time since the war began, Elena felt a flicker of hope. The fleet set off for the heart of the Empire, knowing that this would be their final chance. The Empire might be strong, but the humans had something the Empire could never truly understand: the will to fight for survival, the ingenuity to outsmart their enemies, and the hope for a future beyond oppression. As they traveled deeper into enemy space, Alina stood before the fleet, her mind racing. The final gambit was in motion, and there was no turning back. They were about to face their greatest challenge yet, but this time, they would not be intimidated. This time, they would show the Empire that humanity was no longer the underdog. They were a force that could not be ignored. And when the dust settled, the galaxy would remember who had come out on top.